Welcome to the Ruby Hour, a podcast produced by our company Ruby Riot Creatives. We specialize in video production and content marketing, and we're based in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm Shelby Ring.
And I'm Madeline Rager.
This podcast is devoted to interviewing extraordinary people doing extraordinary things and nuggets of wisdom that they've learned along their journey. Also, just want to give you a heads up, we have potty mouths and we're talking about inappropriate things. I'm here with the amazing Leigh Webber, and her company is Dive In. Tell us a little bit about your company and your work, and I want you to explain it because it is like the craziest, coolest visual work I have seen in a long time.
Thank you. Well, I photograph a lot underwater, and so it's a totally different perspective, which is what makes it kind of fun and different, I think, and turns it into a little bit more of an unexpected, artwork sometimes with the photos. So I have been a photographer for a long time, maybe 15 plus years here in Charleston. And I photographed weddings for many of those years and families. And I think it just kind of came to a point I wanted to evolve and still be a photographer, but do something a little bit different with it. Yeah. And learning to photograph underwater has its own set of challenges. So, they're fun challenges. It's fun to stay with the same medium of photography, but to take it somewhere different and sort of go through all those trials and errors of, learning how to do it again, just in a different way. Like totally different world. Yes, it is. And everything's different. The way the light hits the water, the amount of control I have, which is, I have much less control underwater because I'm moving, the other people underwater are moving, no one can stay still. It's different style of communication. And, even just like seeing what you're taking a picture of is different. Are you using a mask, like a snorkel mask or scuba dive gear? Like, how do you like to get rigged up? Right. So I have a mask on. Yeah. I don't do the whole like scuba gear, which, a lot of people ask about. And that could be cool. But the thing is you really do need to communicate with people. And so I basically just hold my breath and then come back up. Yeah. And I also want whomever I'm photographing to feel like they can come back up as well, because you can really read some body language underwater, and if they're uncomfortable, I can tell. So and a lot of times I'm photographing kids, and so they're kind of up and down anyway. For sure. Oh my gosh. So like, what the heck? You just woke up one day and you were like, I'm going to take this art underwater. Like, what was that moment? Right. So this was probably like, 5 or 6 years ago. My son was about 4, and I was doing a 365-day project with him. So I was photographing him every day, and I would post it with a quote, and I was trying to do something different every day, and that's a great way to be creative, or if you don't feel creative, a great project to give yourself, to photograph something different each day or commit to that. So, halfway through the year, it was probably June, he was taking swim lessons, and I was sort of at that point where I felt like I'd taken every possible photo of him. And so, he was doing a swim lesson, and I used a GoPro. And I got in during the swim lesson and took a couple pictures on the GoPro. But at that point, like, GoPros didn't have a screen on the back, and it was really hard to tell what you were doing. You're just sort of like blindly. Hoping it worked out. Right, blindly doing it. And also the quality wasn't as good as my camera, what I was used to. Yeah. But it was fun. And so I played around with the GoPro for a while, like for the summer, and then just decided I needed to like get the real housing. And that makes a huge difference, because then I'm using, the camera that I use every day. And it's just in a special housing. And so it kind of grew from there. And so I started, photographing like friends' kids, like would go to the beach and take some pictures there, taking the dogs to the beach and getting in the water with them. and posting those, and it, there was a big response with it.
Yeah.
And and so I started sort of just bringing it with me, like the underwater housing, to other shoots. So maybe like I photographed a birthday party a few years ago, and it was a pool party, and nobody expected me to get in the water. They didn't really know, but I brought it and got in, and then suddenly it's like, whoa, that was fun and different. And you can really, I feel like you can really get people like just at their best and happy and like their most real, when they're playing in the water, especially kids. So, I basically started bringing it with me to various shoots that I was already doing. And it started to take on a life of its own. Yeah. So I started hashtagging it Dive In. And I think at the same time I was ready to pare back on shooting weddings. And so started to tip the balance a little bit.
That is so cool. So like, what other parts of your life do you take that same approach of diving in? Because it sounds like you just, but it's like you truly, I so appreciate that you took something that's like, all right, like you have your trade, you have your, like, your camera, what you're working with.
Right.
And you literally just like threw yourself into a different medium.
Right.
In a different circumstance. Like.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like life is short. And you kind of have to go after these big things that you want. And I think about that a lot, about like, sort of my dream list of things to do, the bucket list and places I want to go and the things I want to do. So, I don't know. I mean, it was a little bit kind of more of a jump in the net will appear type.
Yes.
Yes. So, I didn't have a master plan of how this was going to happen, but I kind of like it that way. Anyway, it's the whole serendipity of it, which is a lot like, photographing kids underwater and turning those into fine art, because you just can't plan that, exactly what the picture is going to look like. And I know a lot of people do underwater photography, and it might be very staged, or there is a master plan. Yeah. But I kind of prefer to just let it go where it goes. So, I want to be prepared and under ideal conditions, so you have the sun out and the water's clear and, all those good things. But I don't like to overplan sort of the shoot in general, because you have to leave some space for things just to happen. And I think those are the good things. And I feel like part of it, too, is just the editing process, like culling the images down, because used to be I would take like 1,000 pictures if I were photographing a couple kids underwater. I might do maybe 700 or 800 now, but still I edit those down pretty heavily to maybe 30 or so that I actually show. Yeah. And out of those, I'll have a couple that are definitely my favorites. So I think, that's part of the process is choosing which images from the shoot that you love and that you show.
And that is that is the art piece of it's one thing to like snap a photo and your camera settings, but then you're telling a story through what you choose to like of all those shots, which ones represented the moment and your interpretation of it. Right. You're right. And it's always that idea too of you want to make your client happy, but I also want to not just make myself happy, but like create something that I'm proud of. So, and I guess it kind of varies. Like if I'm photographing for a commercial client, I'm definitely going to focus on what they need, but I'm also going to make time to get some extra shots that, to experiment a little bit with it. And I guess same with families too. We might do the underwater photo shoot with their kids, but then, I narrow it down and then we decide which pieces we're going to blow up for their wall. And it might depend. I don't know. I'm always surprised by people's favorites. Like I like them to tell me, okay, of all these pictures, which ones do you gravitate to? And sometimes people really surprise me with how artsy they are, because they might like something where I thought, ooh, I wasn't sure that you would like that. Like I love it, but sometimes people have been conditioned to, want to see their eyes and their face and this big old smile underwater, which isn't exactly
what I'm trying to do. But, so there's a little compromise sometimes in the end, but I try to show what I like.
That is so cool. And I know when I first crossed paths with you several months ago, I was like, all right, okay. And I like looked at your website and I just remember like looking at the commercial work you've done with like, jewelry and like different things underwater. I was like, what? Like it just took me into like another planet of like,
cool.
When I think of, all right, like retail and like product images.
Right.
And then you took it into like it felt to me, it was like, this is another universe. And for a product to be placed in an environment that's like so backwards and like, I loved it. I loved the like creative, just like, it's such it like knocks you, you're like, wait, what? Like I would have never maybe noticed that, that piece of jewelry or that product, but to see it in an environment that's not normally in, I was like, this girl's brilliant. Like,
yeah, it makes you slow down. And I think, I love Instagram because I love looking at images all the time. And I like, have all these folders on Instagram or whatever where I save images. But, anybody can take a pretty good picture now, especially with all the iPhones advance. And so, I feel like you do have to do something a little bit different so that you stand out or so that your image stands out as people are scrolling through.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. And then it's fun. There's a little difference, though. Instagram is on your small screen, and then a lot of times I print things big. So, sort of figuring that out, like, I don't know how that translates, but...
That is awesome. So are you someone would you identify as like being a water person? Were you a water baby growing up?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes. I grew up on a lake.
Okay.
Lake Hickory in North Carolina. And so summer was definitely it still is my season. Yes. I love summer. I love water. So yes.
That is
definitely a water person.
That is so, so cool. What's like a non-art related or photography related memory that you have that was awesome that included water?
Ooh. I remember learning how to water ski. Is that what you mean? Sort of like, yes. Behind a boat, with my dad driving the boat. Just growing up on a lake and like, I don't know, back then, I guess you can still do this, but when kids have boats at like 15, 16 years old and they can come pick you up and that was fun and different. I liked sort of growing up that way. And I went to camp that was on the water and we learned to sail. So there's a water theme for sure.
That's so cool. I just love that it's like, it merged from, like a field of work to then something that's almost like a grassroots feel for you of like,
right.
It's like you have that appreciation and just that you're comfortable in the water.
Right.
'Cause do you feel like the client engagement, have most of the people I feel like that are probably in front of the camera underwater, is it their first time doing something that's
definitely
a water shoot?
Definitely. With it's different, kids versus adults.
Yeah.
Because with adults, sometimes people become very self-conscious underwater.
Yeah.
Or they just don't really know. And there is a little bit of like guidance I need to give people. Like if it's a model, and maybe I don't want to have her exhaling a ton of bubbles, so she might need to sort of hold it in for a second, or just the way to position your body, and then with kids it's more free form, they're just jumping in and coming up, and you're more concerned about like just general safety of kids versus like having them do anything in particular, but I feel like you can, like I said, read a lot of body language underwater. Maybe it's because most people can't really see. You can see underwater, but it's not clear unless you have on goggles. Yeah. It's kind of fuzzy. So, I don't know. I feel like I just got off track of whatever you were saying.
That's so cool. It's just like, it's a different platform and a different medium. And for the people that you're engaging with, it's a different type of experience all around.
Right. And I kind of like that people come in with not a specific expectation. Yeah. Because they haven't done this or they haven't seen a lot of pictures like this. So they're a little bit more open to just having the experience and then seeing the photos later.
Yeah.
So I think that takes away some of, I don't know if it takes away the pressure, but versus like shooting to a laptop, like I might do on a commercial shoot where every picture comes up, and people can see it and they become sometimes a little bit self-critical or something. With this, it's nice. You don't have to think about that. You just go with it. And then I, pare them down to the ones where they're going to look good and feel good about it.
Yeah. What do you feel like is, in terms of, you've been in business and been a photographer for several years. So what have you noticed in the trends of, like, you kind of hit on, like, well, everybody's like, anybody can take a great picture these days.
Sure.
What have you noticed in the industry just over time?
Right. Well, I went to SCAD, and I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in photography. And when I started photographing here in Charleston, there were only a handful of photographers. There were like 6 or 7 of us. And now it's just like ubiquitous. I mean, there are tons and tons and tons
Saturated.
and tons.
Yeah.
And, everything's changed in that span of time, just, with the internet and social media. But it used to really bug me. I hated having all this extra competition, and I, sometimes got my feelings hurt because I felt like I had a lot more experience, but maybe someone else was hired to do the job. But I think going into underwater and doing something completely different, where I'm not constantly comparing myself to other people, has really freed me up from all those feelings. Now I can do it and really enjoy it and not compare it to anyone else. I mean, I look at other underwater images, but I'm not constantly like inundated with it, or it's my friend or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's been nice to kind of separate from the pack a little bit with that. And it's evolved. It's still evolving. I mean, it's, just taking it more into that fine art world has been a whole learning curve unto itself, but it's been fun. It's been fun to learn and to figure out what size to print an image on the wall and how to frame it and how exactly to print it, and sort of the trial and error, and not falling into, just a certain script of what's expected, say in the wedding world.
Yeah.
Where people come to you with, their Pinterest page and a ton of expectations.
Yeah, they're like, make me look like this,
Right. And you're pleasing all these people, like the mother of the bride and the bride. And I mean, that's great too. I feel like I might have a degree in photography, but I feel like I was really trained as a photographer from shooting, all these weddings for so many years.
Yeah.
Actually doing it's totally different than going to school for it.
Yeah.
So,
and like the wedding universe, it's like,
right.
You are like rolling with the punches and your lighting, and like, we're constantly like, when we go into something, we'll be like, oh, this is awesome. And then it's like, if there's an open room where half of it's fluorescent, and then like the other people are getting ready with natural light, right? And
right.
you're like, so it's like, if you want to like get schooled immediately, like immerse yourself in like a wedding day timeline. Oh my gosh.
That's so true. And I don't know if people really appreciate that and all the little things. Like when it poured rain this last weekend, my first thought was, I am so glad I don't have a wedding to shoot, because I would be so stressed out. With it.
Yeah. No, that is like, I just love how you like adapted, it's like you found a way to be resilient and like find your niche. Was that something like when you stumbled upon, because you were doing the project with your son, and was that something did it kind of catch your own creativity off guard?
Yeah, I think it made me excited to photograph. I mean, I was still, enjoying being a photographer, but, when you're sort of, I don't know, it was nice to have something I was excited to photograph and excited to edit.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. And I think, because it was all new and different. And I had to figure out what I liked. And I was, you're a little bit limited with the underwater housing as to how many things you can control in your camera.
Yep.
So learning sort of a base setting and, what is the ideal sort of time of day or the kind of water?
Yeah.
Am I in the ocean or a pool, chlorine or salt water?
Yeah.
I feel like, becoming this pool expert. I don't personally have a pool. I would love to have a pool, but it's also been nice to go in so many other people's pools and sort of experience, different environments because they, photographing in different kinds of pools, it's like being in a different kind of studio space.
Yes.
Is it a light colored bottom or a dark gray bottom?
Yeah. I'm just thinking through that too. I'm like, holy smoke, even if the like tinting of what they have it colored in, the bounce is going to be totally different.
Right, exactly. And and even just figuring out, like, is it good, do I want a dark background behind them, or is it a little bit more mottled, or, just all these little variations. And then the color correction, is a thing unto itself.
Yes, holy smokes. Yeah.
So it's a lot more labor intensive on the editing side.
Yeah.
Than the shooting side. But, so that, all these little things I've learned. And then photographing in the ocean, of course, here it's not clear enough really to see underwater, but I can still get in, because it's fun to sort of be at the water's edge and have a little bit of that, or to be splashed or whatever. But then I have photographed in the Bahamas where it is clear enough, or Hawaii, and that's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I want to go more places like that where I'm photographing for people in clear ocean water.
Yeah, for sure. That's like, that is the dream. That's so great.
Just have to make it happen.
That's like, I love that. And I appreciate it because my roots were in filming with a GoPro underwater from cooking on boats. And so it was like,
oh, how interesting.
The whole thing of like, free diving down and like the process of that it goes into getting a story underwater, right?
Interesting, right.
Do you feel more calm while because you're like, whether you're noticing it or not, you're holding your breath, you're slowing your breathing down? Have you ever noticed?
No, I totally agree. Yes, no, absolutely. I think about it a lot when I'm sort of preparing for a photo shoot, and like with a wedding or even photographing a family or before any photo shoot, I'm nervous. I think it's just sort of that like nervous energy. I want to do a good job. I don't want to forget anything. I want to be prepared. But I have noticed, like, when I'm shooting underwater, I am so much more chill than if I'm on the land. And I think it is because I'm holding my breath. I'm going under. I can sort of hone in on things, like I'm not worried about people around me sort of making suggestions or telling kids or whomever else is in the shoot to do certain things. It's just me and them. And so it is nice, but I'm exhausted afterwards. Like I can do 2 underwater shoots in a day, like 2 1-hour shoots. And that's pretty much it, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's very draining. And I think, I'm wearing a weight belt and, kind of going up and down a lot. So,
well, and I imagine your mind, because like you said, you're coming into, whether it's a new pool or just a different pool from what you shot before, your mind thinking about the settings and the aesthetic and the post-production.
It's
I
true.
can only imagine.
It'd be good in the future to sort of like have a pool that I know in and out. That would sort of streamline some things for me. But it's also fun to, try something different. I'm always open to trying different things. So yeah. And then, you're out in the sun a lot of times. So that's kind of draining, and I'm, hoping
that's part of the mystery of it as well, is that you are coming into fresh environments, like quite literally, like the lighting and the experience, the water, the medium you're shooting through, it's constantly a variable. And it sounds like that's something that keeps you creatively engaged.
Yes, I think so. Yes, I like change and just the challenge of it. And I usually just use the sun as my light, but this summer my family went to the beach and the house we rented had a pool, which was fun because I got to experiment at night, with the lights in the pool, but then also with some dive lights. And trying to figure out, bringing a light into the mix. And because, I mean, one of the problems is that, this is kind of more of a summer warm weather thing, or you need to be in a warm place, but it'd be nice to do it year round, whether that means traveling to, the southern hemisphere, or even using an indoor pool, but bringing in some light under the water. So that's a whole new thing to explore.
Like sustainable year round with this medium.
Yeah, right, exactly.
What?
So, I mean, really, I'm definitely like the warm weather person. So I'm always happy to travel anywhere warm to photograph for people. Though, I mean, I guess I'd try anywhere underwater. I saw where someone had gone to Antarctica with the underwater housing, and they had it on a pole. Okay. And like we're dipping it in the water, and you could shoot it from the end of the pole or something, or
and
click
they're
the shutter.
Yelling at the models from the boat. They're like, "Okay, jump."
Well, there were no models. I don't think anyone, but I mean that'd be fun too. But I'm like, I'm not against that. I'd love to try that as well.
What would be like a crazy thing that like what would be the medium that you could photograph in Antarctica?
I mean, I'd like to do some sort of around the world theme with water. Whether it's
oh my god,
just the different bodies of water around the world, or pools, or I don't know. I'm open to ideas, but
so awesome.
Yeah. So that's sort of the dream with this.
I love it. I'm like, I just think it's the most romantic. Yes, I was gonna say we will shoot promo content.
Sounds good.
Particularly to the warm weather environments. No, awesome. We just shot 2 weeks ago. Tulsi Gabbard was coming into town.
Okay.
And she's running for president, and she's a surfer. And of course, my boyfriend thought it was a great idea to reach out on Instagram and be like, "Yo, if you want to surf while you're here, let us know."
Way.
And she texted back, so we took her out surfing and lined her up like dawn patrol surf session.
That's awesome.
I got back to my roots with my GoPro and fins, and was like filming her surf, and was in the process of getting sick at the same time, and but it was amazing. I was like, oh, this is my roots, and Chris was like, oh.
That's really
He's
cool.
like, babe, I don't know if you know what you're getting into with this. I was like, freaking, I was born with fins on my feet. What are you talking about? No, it was crazy.
That's
but it's
funny.
like, it is such an amazing, the environment, and like to be underwater. And like you were saying of like, when you're used to, there's always like someone that either thinks they're a photographer, or they should be like a director of photography, and then you're like, I'm working with this person here, and I want that energy connection.
Right. It's so true. You have to, even just like this, having a conversation, you sort of develop sort of that trust in the relationship of photographing someone, and you want them to pay attention to you and not be worried about what someone else thinks they should be doing. Because usually whatever that other person thinks is not applicable to what you want them to do at all.
Ever. It's like, we photographed, how many babies was that? It was like 6. There was like 6, under a year to like a 3-year-old on a couch.
Gosh.
And
wow.
We like had filmed for a family photographer before, and so I was like, oh yeah, like I watched that, I'm good.
Right.
And then it was like, but it was in a controlled studio environment,
right?
And it was like, I was like, like we're just gonna roll through it, and there was like 6 people yelling at the kids. It's like jelly beans in front of the camera. It was a nightmare of like, I mean, and the family was so awesome because they were like, we feel for you already before you ever try to make this happen. Like,
well, that's good. At least they sort of understood.
Yeah, and it was just,
you didn't yet.
Oh my gosh, but it was like the hindsight reflection. We always do completion exercises after projects, and it was like, if there had just been one point of like someone, doing toys or something to like keep the focal point of all the children in one spot versus, I know my parent, I know my aunt, I know whoever. So they were looking everywhere else. So it was like, hindsight is always 2020. But underwater, the quiet, like as you were describing that, it makes me think of, you're like, okay, whatever other activities, ambulance going by, anything, like you go under, and that like quiet is like, it's just, it takes you to another place.
Right. Yeah, and that reminds me of my own childhood and swimming in the pool, and I loved that. I mean, I would swim all day, and I think you're right. It is very calming, almost a little bit zen, to be underwater like that.
Zen. Oh, I love it. I am on board with your profession. That's so
good,
awesome. So like from a business perspective, you know, I always love to think about like, okay, circumferentially, like your world, and you know, you have this trade, you have a craft, but
Right.
what's been the keys to in your own journey with owning your own business? And you know, whether it's through building sales or maintaining client relationships or any
Right.
part of the process, what's been something, especially like in this last year, that has really stood out to you in your journey of like, this has really contributed to my success?
Right. I would say it's a combination of enthusiasm, like because I really love it and enjoy doing it, and just like making friends with people, you know, just like real friends. And then it spreads mostly word of mouth from there. You know, I'll photograph for someone and then they share the pictures with someone else because they're excited and they love them.
Yep.
And then it just kind of goes to the next thing. So, yeah, I think for me, just being open to going different places and not so worried about all the, I don't know, basically taking a chance and going and then trying to meet new people. And as long as I'm enjoying it, you know, I think it just sort of flows that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel like with the clients that, you know, that referral business, are they from people where it's like you feel that sense of like you're vibing with them, there's a synergy?
Right. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think so. I one of the first people I photographed for that was where I did some underwater was for Marisha, which is a line of swimsuits. And she has a child's line called Bumby. And I feel like she posted some, and then people kind of found me through that. And there were, I don't know, there are just a lot of similarities, I don't know, with some of her clients and then the people I photographed for. And so, it evolves. And a lot of times, you know, these people live at the beach or they have a house at the beach, or, you know, the fact they have a pool.
Yeah.
Because even though, I mean, I can photograph anywhere with a pool, a lot of places I go are coastal, whether it's like Miami or Ponte Vedra, the Charleston, Sullivan's Island, Kiowa area, or California. A lot of times you're also on the coast or, you know, just in the sun and happy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the people that gravitate towards this are sort of on the positive side of things.
Yep.
And love being outside. Yeah.
And your product offering is so iconic of people who probably are water babies themselves.
Right.
And love the
I
coastal
agree.
or the, you know, that part of being outside and in the outdoors. And yeah. That's just like that's the track for success right there. Like, know your client avatar, know your service offering and your vibe. And it's like, you know, as you're describing this, it's like you're in such alignment with like what you love. It emanates off of you, and you're finding people that meet that energy level.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah, like-minded people for sure. Sort of on the same wavelength.
That is so cool. Yeah. What was like a surprising shoot that either you didn't think it was going to be so hard, or it turned out amazing, or like, is there one that comes to mind? There's always a shoot.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. And you know, there have been a couple of times where we got in the water and I realized it was cloudy. Like, you couldn't tell from above.
Okay.
You know,
and was this working with
cloudy.
a person? What was your subject matter?
Right. Yeah. So working with, with a person.
Cool.
These were like with kids.
Okay.
So it, like, if that had been a commercial shoot, maybe, we might, well, I don't know. You might have to reschedule or find a different pool, which I've done that as well, I guess. But like maybe the chemistry of the pool is off. And it can be kind of cloudy. And so then suddenly I can't see the person if they're more than like 3 or 5 feet from me.
Oh.
Right? And that's not good. The first time it happened, I just went with it. And we actually got a lot of really good pictures out of it. But it just had a totally different feel. I had to make a lot black and white, and it was kind of a darker feel to it than my normal work. But, you know, so that's happened, or occasionally, you know, the housing will leak a little bit. You know,
I know.
I have to get out. Or, you know, I've never like totally ruined a camera from it. Well, I feel like I go through cameras more quickly because they do get a lot hotter and humid being in there, and so yeah, so now I feel like I've gone through equipment more quickly. But yeah, I did have one where like the pool was heated, and so then the dome on the front of my underwater housing fogged up, and it was like I just couldn't get the balance right, and it was kind of a little bit frustrating. So it's things like that where I'm like, I don't know what I wasn't expecting it. I don't know what to do, and you kind of have to. It's like being at a wedding. You just sort of try to figure out what you can do, and keep going, roll with the punches, and roll with it, and see what happens. And worst case scenario, I will redo it or something. But
So I always love asking, like, beyond your trade and beyond your work, what is your happy place of whenever you're not culling or lining something up, when you're not in work mode? What is Leigh's happy place?
A happy place, it's definitely traveling somewhere new. I love like a city that I can explore. I've got not too much of an itinerary or not too many places I have to be, maybe a little structure, but I like going to new places or researching them and looking up to see what I want to see or where I want to eat, what I want to do, and having sort of, the space, to think and to walk and to photograph whatever I come by, that sort of thing. I went to Thailand 2 winters ago for 3 weeks by myself and basically just did that.
By yourself? Okay, how was that?
It was great. Okay. I'd been there before, so I knew I'd be fine by myself.
Yeah.
But no, I love it. Yeah. It's better sometimes to travel with somebody, but it's also nice to be able to travel by yourself, I think. And then you can still call home or talk to whomever, or post something if you need someone to talk to or someone to love, whatever you're doing. But it's also nice to do it alone and see where your mind goes and have a journal and camera. I don't really go anywhere without my camera, so
how much does your camera weigh?
With your staple and everything.
Just let's do like when you're traveling with your like staple lens or 2. How much weight is that?
Gosh.
Random question.
Well, it depends. Like, is it, I can pare it down, or I can take like the full shebang. But how much does it weigh? Gosh, I don't know. I try to do it, as a carry-on, like if I'm flying. Yeah. And I don't know, 20 pounds? I don't know. It all gets very heavy. Yeah. Really, to be honest.
I know.
And bulky. Like the underwater housings are big, and I have 2, and then I have like 3 cameras that I take. So it can be cumbersome. Yeah.
I know. I used to shoot on Canon 5D Mark IIIs. Like that was my workhorse for a long time.
Right.
And there was one year we did 42 weddings. And like our wrists, it was like literally between that and carrying tripods with the rigs on them, or like 70 to 200 with them. It was like I kind of hit a wall, and I was like, I'm not even enjoying my work because I'm so like I'm mentally
sore.
Yeah, I would get my massage afterwards, whatever, and it would just be like I am literally caving forward from the weight of these things. We're Sony girls right now with Canon.
Interesting.
With Canon glass on them.
But I have not gone into the mirrorless realm yet.
Into the woods. But no, I feel like for what you're doing though, it's like you gotta like the OG with it, like.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I don't use like the big. I don't know what the Canon equivalent is, but and I'm using fixed lenses typically, like.
Okay.
So I don't have like a big zoom lens on it, which sort of helps.
Yeah.
And then being underwater, you're a little more buoyant, so you don't feel the weight of that. But it is a little. It's not as ergonomic. You're holding this big thing, and it's sort of awkward.
Is it like the size of a football? Like for people that aren't familiar with filming with actually water housing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like a volleyball maybe.
All right.
Almost roundish.
Take your volleyball.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's it's in a way it's hard to like stretch my hand over it. A lot of these times, sometimes these things are like made for men. This is kind of a bigger thing. But I have been curious about the mirrorless. I shoot with Nikon, but I would love for them to like sponsor me.
Yeah. Hello, Sony, if you're listening to this.
That's right. To try it, and see how that works. Yeah. So maybe that'll be the next iteration.
I know. The moment you said like traveling with you never go without a camera, I was like, homegirl's lugging like 20 to 30 pounds of like.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But
and a
it's
laptop
almost
and everything.
Yeah, and it's like that peace of mind of knowing if you wanted to flex that creativity. I find if I don't have a camera with me and I'm somewhere, I'm like, where's my freaking camera?
Oh,
and
totally.
Then, or you're like, you have it all and you're like, I don't know. Like, it's just having, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? And so it's like, all right, I'm going to bring my...
Yeah. You always have to take it. I mean, and it's a pain, like, especially if you're, like, we went to Denmark for 10 days to go to Legoland. And, I mean, I was like, I have to take the underwater housing. Like, I have to, because if there's water there and I don't get it, and I don't take advantage of it, then I'm going to be so mad.
Did you get in the water in Denmark?
Yes, it was freezing and very rough.
Leigh, you're hardcore.
But I was like, I had to do it, So, yeah. And then there was a pool that was really cool with, like, different colored lights, at the hotel we were in. So that was cool. So I'm glad I took it. But, it was a little bit ridiculous in a way to lug that around. But, but I'm going to. So, yeah.
It's part of...
I need someone to come with me to just take care of equipment and then edit for me.
Yes, that is Madeline in my life. Everybody needs the Madeline of their world. No, that is so cool. Like, just what advice would you have to someone that, whether they're in a visual field or, when you first took that leap of, building out your business? And I love, like, I feel like we're so privileged here in Charleston. We have so many incredible like women entrepreneurs and solopreneurs.
Right.
So like if you were to talk to yourself, when you were first launching, right? Like what would be things that you wish you would have known?
I think I just hired someone to come on with me to do more sort of the back end of things and to help me schedule and make sure that all these Google alerts are sent out about, when everything's going to happen and the info. And I should have done that a long time ago. And I feel like it's opened this Pandora's box because having her is so awesome and we're just starting that I'm like, I need 4 of these, great people to work with me or to have someone who did edit for me all the time or where I could do a shoot and say, okay, I need this, in 2 days. Can you do it?
Yeah.
Because I work all the time and I don't really, want to work every weekend or every night or always be, feeling like I'm letting someone down because I didn't get back to them, quickly or I couldn't do something else. So, basically I would, hire more people. And I don't know. I think just sort of going after it, like you got to check in with your gut, do what feels exciting and fun.
With, was it scary right before you hired the person on?
Yes.
And you're like, all right, I'm gonna like add part of my budget to someone else. How, like, what was that like?
Yes. And I think that's why I put it off for years, really. I mean, I've always had people that worked with me, but they're sort of more contract based, like I have a bookkeeper, or I have someone that photographs with me sometimes, that sort of thing. But to like commit to someone and pay them monthly and like, I don't want to take their job away. Just commit to that is very scary for me. It took a long time, but I think I just reached a point this summer. We were trying to get together and I was like never available and my life's just sort of been like that all summer. So I don't know. You just wanted to get a little more structure in my life and reclaim some free time because that is when you can be most creative, when you're not bogged down all the time.
Yeah, and that concept of, not letting somebody down because you're like, okay, either I'm like spun out with work in my itinerary or like personally, it's like, how do you find that time for personal life and like for yourself? You're like, I haven't had a bath in 2 weeks or like whatever the,
Right. Well, it's funny because wedding season was always like, okay, I'm super busy in the spring and I'm super busy in the fall. And I was a little bit more free in the summer or winter. But now, shooting underwater and trying to take advantage of like April through October, I feel like I have to cram, or not cram, but like fit in as many things as I can. But that's also like prime travel season. My son's out of school or, different things where it's like, well, I want to take advantage of that too. So, I think being able to photograph year round underwater would help, but also just sort of having a support team, behind me so that I can do my best and
and be positioned
and sleep.
And have that elusive thing called sleep and slumber. And it's like you just tapped it on the head of like setting yourself up to creatively thrive. And I think that we forget that when, like you said, like in the Charleston area or the Southeast, it's like probably everywhere, like there's there is an explosion of creatives, and it's like, how can we celebrate that we are all rising together and raising the bar, and also like just know that we can find our spot and have balance of we're creative, we're doing these creative endeavors, and also that you're not forgotten in the mix, and that you need that space to have creativity and to like stay inspired. And I think that it's like maybe that's what that trip to Thailand, it's like to be able to just give yourself time to walk around. And like for me, the biggest guilty pleasure, but it's like not a guilty pleasure, it ends up being the most like biggest return on investment of my energy, is to set myself a time where I do nothing. Right. Downtime on your calendar. Like, I don't have my laptop with me. I can't, just be like, I'll just knock these things out. There's forever a to-do list, right? Right. But when you can give yourself the open space to be like, I'm gonna go look at that Cheeto vending machine over there, and then you find like a weird bird, and then you like have an adventure and. Right. No, I agree. Yeah, you need sort of that open calendar and time and space, and I love it. Be creative. Well, how can people get in touch with you and see your amazing work? Tell them where you are on Instagram, on your website. Give all of the details. We'll put it in the show notes. How do they find you? Yes. So the website is leighwebber.com. So LEIGHWEBBER. My Instagram is the same, at Leigh Webber. And I mean, those are the two places I would go. Awesome. To see it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing a moment with the Ruby Hour sessions. And if you enjoyed this content, please be sure to like, to subscribe, to go check out Leigh's work. It's ridiculous, y'all. And until then, thank you so much for engaging, listening, and watching.